What is up, everybody? CP and SJ with you for another week of Every Day We're Covering, where we talk the world of sports, wagering, having a good time, and we are 1 week away from the college football season getting underway. We are obviously very excited about that. Excited to start picking some games, which we, of course, will start up this next week as well. Finally, the wait that we've been talking about and building up is finally coming to an end here, SJ.
Yeah, it's you can almost taste it, right? Like it's right there, and especially with your guys there, you got the extra. That's always kind of nice to get. Well, I mean, you'll go cross that bridge when the game completes if it was good early or not. But at least for the anticipation wise, it's always nice to kind of get out there early, and then even with my squad, it's like Thursday night game. That's all right too the next week. So we're ready to get it going. And I mean, you could kind of say it feels like we're getting close, but I don't know with these with crazy heat waves that have been going on across the country. It seems a little odd, but that's always kind of the case. I mean, maybe not to this extreme, but those first few games, it's like you got to have the Red Cross and all the people on standby for the Blue Hairs to be hauling them out from the 300 level.
Yeah, I mean, it might get a little rough for the spectators and the players for those first few games. If we keep up this type of weather, that's for sure. We always run into that every year. At least it seems like for one here or there. But I don't know that we've had like a sustained run up where we felt like it's just been so damn hot all the way up to the beginning of the season. So yeah, that's going to be something to deal with. I think these first couple of rounds for some people.
Well, maybe the European adventure is a good in this case because I'm assuming it's. I mean, I've never spent much time there, at all, let alone this time of year. But I can't imagine it's anywhere near the heat we're getting these days.
Yeah, I would sure hope not. Over there
might be some serious issues.
A little further north there. Excited. We've obviously got a lot of college football to talk about, and that's going to be our main focus here. We're going to talk about who we think are kind of our conference favorites for the Power Four conferences, and then we might mention a couple of sleepers or a group of 5 team that we think might be good as well coming into this 25-26 campaign. But before we get started, we always like to talk about what we're tipping back as well here and prepping us for this season. And of course, we got to stay hydrated and refreshed with this damn hot weather, so you got no choice but to have a few beverages. And I'm going to give I kind of alluded to it last week, but I'm going to give another little shout out to our friends there over in Council Bluffs at Full Fledged Brewing Company. I did pick up one of the beers that they had produced for their 6th anniversary celebration that we had talked about, and they decided to put it in cans. I think originally that wasn't the plan, but they decided to go ahead and do that. So pretty cool when you pick up the can, and it's like a week away that it says canned on. That's always good when you're getting good fresh beer. So but it's the peach wheat that they put out called Peachful Getaway, and it's a pretty cool looking can too. I love the way that they do their logoing, because they put the main logo there, that's their base, kind of, they got this block lettering logo, and then they filter the picture inside of that frame on the different pieces. So pretty cool stuff. It's a nice little scene there out in the garden, as the folks over across the pond would say, having some nice peach drinks there, sitting in the Adirondack chairs. So like it, and it's a good beer. Nice little peach flavor to it. 4.8% alcohol by volume. I mean, if you're not a sweet person, you're probably not going to love it, because it is pretty sweet. I always say that. But for having a couple, I definitely enjoy it. What do you got pouring over there?
Nothing as intricate, but I was like, kind of, I don't know, I just figured, like, let's see what I got in the fridge, and it wasn't anything that stood out to me, as far as, I guess maybe my prep wasn't where it needed to be, but I was like, man, it's hot enough out. We just talked about that and the weather and all that type of thing. So I mixed me a homemade shandy there, but with mine, I prefer like a little bit more like the soda version than the lemonade. I know the lemonade's like the more standard popular thing, but I go a little heavier on the like the citrus, the soda, and then just like a little splash of lemonade. And I don't know, just figured it's going to be a decent night of fights here coming up, and got a lot going on. So I figured I better be easy to start the day, and we'll get a little heavier as the night wears on.
Yeah, there you go. All right, good stuff there as well. So always good to mix it up your own way sometimes too. So we love that. We're going to get into talking about these conferences. We do have a couple of other story tidbits to filter in here towards the end as well about college football, but main focus is going to be, who do we think are going to be the good teams coming into this season. Now, I will just say, and obviously everybody knows this, but I think this part of looking ahead, and we've already talked about it as far as preseason rankings and those things are concerned, it's as hard as it's ever been. I mean, every team is so different year to year because of now players, moving around a lot more frequently. Even teams that have a good core that come back, usually there's a couple of pieces that they go find from somewhere else. And whether that be a great recruit like normal in the past, or they go snatch a great player from a group of 5 team that can really fill in a void, or they lose a great running back, they bring in another one, kind of thing. So it's so much harder, I think, to predict how these teams are going to play out. I think obviously conferences and other prognosticators have realized that. We talked earlier about the Big 12 pretty much just doing away with the preseason poll because the team that was supposed to be last year won it. So it's wild, but at least we can kind of take a look and give our reasons why we think these teams will at least be good and contenders. I guess that's the thought. So we'll go through this, but yeah, SJ, I think as far as as being an exact science, it's definitely a lot different than it used to be.
Oh yeah, this is the the long shots of all long shots when it comes to the college game, at least, and just looking at whatever book you choose to go through, it's you're always getting plus money on damn near every team. And if you're anything under like 300 or so, you're like, oh, because that's about as sure bet as you're going to get for picking them. And then factor into the mix you mentioned about just the the movement of players and all that type of thing, but also it's like, does the conference championship really matter in the big scheme of things to some teams?
Yeah.
We want to be there for the playoff so much more so than, of course, it's always nice to have another trophy and bragging rights. But you look at a team like Ohio State last year, it actually, benefited them, honestly, to not play in that game. They get a home game and then they go on that tear. So, and it's possible that can happen again. So, of course, we can't factor that in at this point to, the predictions we're going to make and who we like to maybe make a run at the thing. But that does kind of, that's just another variable to add to the equation that we're trying to solve here.
Yeah, it makes it a lot more difficult. And I think the same is true. We talked about players, but it happens a lot for coaches, even more so than it used to as well, it feels like. I mean, that was always the case. You had coaches moving around, but I think that also has kind of picked up at the same time that the player movement has. So, you've seen even one of the teams that we're going to talk about in the Big Ten is a big coordinator from one team to another. So, you see some of that stuff now, too. So it's, definitely an interesting world. And I guess, from a just a true spectator's perspective, that's awesome. It usually turns into fun, unexpected results. We don't know what's going to happen week to week, even more so than in the past. And, everybody usually loves parity. I mean, that's what most of the professional leagues are built on, trying to create as much of that as possible. And I think we're seeing more and more of that now here in college football too. And that's not a bad thing for the casual fan.
Yeah, it's nice. Like I said, it's nice to have that. The who knows. That's kind of what's made the game. Any given, I know any given Sunday is like the same most things, but to me, it's more of a college football thing than an NFL thing. I understand there's more of like the bottom's closer to the top in the professional level, but the teams that are on the bottom beat the top in college. So I think that's why it's more of a, there's more of a variety there, because it's just the wacky is like not really out of the ordinary. It's almost like, we go down the schedule or the weekly schedule and the games, and we're trying to find an upset, because it's more of a matter of if not, or, a matter of when, not if.
Yeah.
Like an upset's going to happen. We're just, everyone trying to find that, what the trap game is what people, it's kind of been known in the college game, but it's just a matter of it's going to happen. You just don't know when, and trying to pick that spot. So that's a good thing too. But I mean, you want to have, obviously you got to have play down on the field helps too. Not having this, you'd have to run the table, then you get these crazy matchups. But it is good to know that, hey, one loss isn't going to kill you, and then you can still make a run at these conference championships that we're going to speak of here.
Yeah. So we're going to look at this, and we'll preface too, as far we talked about this beforehand, depending on what book you like to use too, if you're making futures wagers, you might have to look at kind of how it's spelled out in the fine print too in the book that you're using, because it may be more about who's going to win the conference championship game rather than who's going to win the conference during the regular season portion of it. So just kind of pay attention to that. What numbers you're getting and what they actually mean. I mean, obviously, hopefully a lot of times the team that is, you feel like the best is the one that gets in the conference championship game and wins it. But we know that that's not always the case. Ohio State last year, prime example. So this it can get a little bit different. So just be wary of that if you're making those predictions. I mean, obviously you can still have some fun with it, even if it's not maybe the way that you kind of would hoped or intended. But play it however you feel is best. If you need to just go to the win total side and tweak with that, if that's how you feel you're going to get your best bang for your buck, go that direction. Or if you're okay with just winning the conference, however it may be, then go that way as well. But so we've got some numbers here, and they might be a little bit different, and they might change obviously here a little bit before we get rolling as well to the season getting going. But we'll start here, and I'm going to go ahead and go to what I think is the most uninteresting conference, and the one that we probably both pay the least attention to, and that's the ACC. There doesn't seem to be as much top to bottom parity, I don't think, in that league as many others. We did have a couple surprises, I guess you could say, last year of teams that maybe jumped up and were better than people expected. But from as far as like national interest standpoint, probably the league that probably struggles maybe the most with that now, outside of the couple of big name brands that are at the top. So that's where we'll go. I'll start with who I think is going to be the winner in this league. And if you look at the numbers, this is the one that the books don't really seem to have an uncertainty about. And a lot of people are in favor of Clemson having a breakout year. And I can't disagree with the fact that I think they're going to win the league, just because you look at other teams, and I don't know who else convinces me that they're out of the box better right away to start the season. Is it possible that somebody else jumps up and wins it? Certainly. I don't see Clemson as this unbeatable monster anymore like they once were. But they do seem to be trending in the right direction. Played much better at the end of the year last year. Have a lot of players coming back, and they got that little bit of taste of getting in to the playoff now and kind of getting their feet wet again and getting that hunger again. So I think that's going to help them also. You're looking at I saw minus 110 is what you're getting on Clemson. So that's odd for winning a conference, and shows you how much faith I guess they have in Cade Klubnik and the crew there.
Well, just help out my brethren here, I'm going to hop over to another book I saw in there, plus 105, so at least give you some a little bit better value. But but either way, the point still stands. That's not a very much of a long shot for to win the whole conference when we haven't even played a down yet.
Yeah.
So that just shows you that one, and that was kind of what a lot. Sometimes you just like. There's no denying it. This team's like head and shoulders above the rest. But for this conference, and I agree kind of what you mentioned, it's not like they're like, oh, there's no way anybody can even touch Clemson. So with that being said, I was kind of like, I might want to go a little bit off course here and take somewhat of a bigger underdog. Not too crazy, though, because, you look last year, like, SMU, that's maybe like a fluke run they won, had a hell of a season. But are those type of games and how they won a lot of those, is that – how likely is that to happen again? And they're like looking at a plus 850, which for the value, I mean, if you win it, you're sitting pretty nice. But that's a tall ask. Even like the likes of a Louisville is right there too with the same type of odds. But I'm gonna kind of go. And I'm not like big confident in this one. If we're doing our levels, this would be really low on that. Especially all of these, but especially this conference, because it's like, I mean, you go down the list, and who knows? Maybe like a freaking North Carolina with Belichick comes out of nowhere, and they got the whole basically NFL light set up there, and maybe they have a lot more talent that we're just not aware of at this point. And he coaches them up, and maybe they make a hell of a run. Which, I mean, you're looking at plus 4,000 for that, so that would be a great return on your investment. But I'm not going to go that far. But even a Pittsburgh or Florida State, I mean, that coach Norvell, he's in some trouble. He needs, I mean, not saying you got to win it all, but he's got to have a hell of a season. So maybe you like their odds, but I'll go ahead and take the team that was kind of on the cusp there last year of really having a big season. It is Miami. I know Cam Ward's out, and that's a huge spot to fill. But sometimes when you have a superstar to that level, it's not that you like improve because of it, but it kind of changes the dynamic of your team a little bit. And we know they've been recruiting with. I don't know. I mean, I was always told this is like a small private school, and they've obviously always, never played above board. But some NIL money is coming from out of no, they're almost like a Texas Tech
Yeah.
in that sense. They're spending like crazy, so they kind of got a hit now because I don't know if that. I mean, obviously they're. It's I'm not questioning the fact that they are paying this money like to whoever they're promising it, but I would question the fact of how long that how long is that well going to be there before it dries up. So I think they kind of need to hit now, and while the iron's hot. And so that will be this will be a big season for them when there's a little bit, there's room for anybody up there at the top. So I'll go ahead and take Miami at plus 380. I'm like I said, not a huge. I'm not like, oh man, then Miami that's a tough team, but I do think that they do have maybe a recipe there to make a run in a conference like this. Now, if they're in the likes of a Big 12, Big 10, or SEC, there's no way. But with this with this kind of lineup of teams here, I think they have a decent shot. It's not a big ask.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned, losing Cam Ward, but you bring in, a somewhat proven commodity in Carson Beck, who played very well at Georgia at times. I mean, yeah, he had his struggles there for a little bit, and, kind of obviously, injury changing things for him for a little while there too. But, a guy that knows he can win at that level for sure.
Well, they're gonna have talent too. That's just kind of the thing. I was just like, will that talent be enough? That's like it's always kind of the guess with them. That's always been it. They got to out athlete other teams, and they'll have to do that again if they don't have success.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting with Clemson too. As far as there's been so much talk about Cade Klubnik for so long, and he's never really lived up to the hype. And now here's the opportunity to go out and shine. And he's got a couple of wide receivers back that are really good, Antonio Williams being one of them. So I think that they finally start to piece that together a little bit better, and they've got a lot coming back on defense too, so that helps. But yeah, going to be interesting. I do think Miami is an intriguing team. I kind of just when I was going through, I just kind of had in the back of my mind too of like who I think maybe is a dark horse contender, and if I was going to take a flyer on somebody, I was going to go with Louisville. They're an intriguing team. They got two good running backs, Isaac Brown and Duke Watson, that are back, that were kind of just a real good 1-2 punch. And then they bring in Miller Moss from USC, who was kind of the talk of the town there early in the season a couple years ago when they played LSU in that opener, and he threw for 1,000,000 yards and touchdown passes, and a guy also that's shown that he can be capable at times, and what can he do in a different system with different guys around him in a good running game. So I think they're an intriguing team. I think they could be one that I'm looking at plus 750 at the book that I was looking at. So that's a good return there if you're going to take a flyer on somebody.
Yeah, I guess I'd mention the one if you want to have a little fun and just throw a few bucks here or there. I'd roll with like a North Carolina just for the hell of it. It's not no, there's no basis for that rationale. There's just having a little fun with that because why not with those things? And I mean, as far as knowing the game and all that stuff, like they're not gonna be in a better position coaching wise than anybody they've had probably ever. So I mean, whatever you will about his personal life and all that other crap, like. Can't deny it's coaching acumen. So, I mean, maybe not, obviously with the number the way it is, what I mentioned earlier, the 4,000 plus 4,000, of course, it's not expected, but I could assume that I could see them get it rolling here in a couple of years, at least not necessarily a conference, title team every year, but at least, legitimate 8-9 win type of team.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So that's a look there at the ACC a little bit as we get started, and I'm just going to kind of, I guess, go kind of clockwise here around the country. Well, somewhat regionally.
Yeah, you have to say it's kind of hard to do that these days. Fool's errand.
Where it started, I guess, is what we're going to go with here. So move over to the SEC. Obviously, a team or a conference that does have a lot of good teams, and we've of course heard the narrative over and over again. If you're not a fan of one of those teams, you get sick and tired of hearing about how good they are. I do think there are some pretty good contenders towards the top, but I think it's kind of the same story as usual as well. I mean, yeah, there's some really good teams that you could see as playoff title contenders. But then when you get down towards the bottom, there might be some that aren't so great as well. So I don't know top to bottom how strong fully it's going to be as a conference, but I do think there are a few at the top that are pretty interesting as far as being a pretty good team. SJ, guess I'll give you the floor to start with your winner here. Who you think's coming out of that SEC?
Well, I mean, the one thing kind of gets caught my eye with just looking at the numbers here was, I guess, as far as relatively speaking, how high Alabama was within their the third best odds, at least what I'm looking at to win it all. And I'm not, of course, that's not crazy. They've won plenty of conference titles in recent time, but then you got to remember the coaching change and even the way they ended the season wasn't exactly ideal. I know there's always the excuse of these players sat out. We don't care about the game, but unless you win, then it's the most important game ever. But if you lose, it's like, we didn't really try. That's why Michigan freaking waxed our fannies there. So
Mm-hmm.
I get it how you're like, it's almost like a desperation. People are like, well, is Alabama still relevant or not in the conference title
Mm-hmm.
or beyond title? So this is like basically like their year to figure it out, because I can't imagine if they miss it again and by such a wide margin that I mean, as crazy as it sounds, they may be in the market for a new coach
Yeah.
again. I mean, that's just the type of place that it is, and you can understand it to an extent, but maybe a little more time is probably necessary when you're kind of shifting to a new type of just a new program, new scheme, and all that type of thing. But that's not a luxury afforded to. You want these big time jobs, you got to get the big time pressure along with it. So I don't know. I don't see it. I don't think that they're going to be like a terrible team. I just don't see them, kind of going on a run. You have to be one of those things where maybe you make an adjustment a few games into the year and be like, okay, they're back to what we kind of expected when they were on that. But then again, it's like that freaking. I mean, that's like a once in a program type of run. It's not like it's going to be mashed. I can, they've been to the playoffs and been to in the sniffing the conference championship, so it's not like they're winning 1, 2, 3, 4 games a year. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're still somewhat around, but I don't see them kind of making that jump from just a very outside observance. So, but Georgia is a team that a lot of people like, and it's like kind of the same thing. It's like, where have they been? And it's like, well, they haven't been that far off, but they just
Mm-hmm.
haven't kind of the big game where it was, they had the chance and couldn't really get over that hump. And it's like the far, and recruiting wise, all these teams have talent coming in and everything. I kind of wanted to, I guess maybe I was just like in the dark horse mode when I was looking at these, and I'm like, man, how much can I get more bang for my buck? But in it, the tricky thing about this is like, man, I do not, that coach of theirs, I don't know about him, but LSU is a team I actually do kind of like to make a run.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily. I mean, winning it, of course, we're going to go with them because plus 700 is a hell of a value. Now, if we're talking like how confident, I mean, again, I'm very low on that. But I just feels like it's kind of one of those. We mentioned how wide open the ACC is, and we'll probably talk about a few other conferences, such as like, of course, the Big 12 seems pretty open too. As good as the teams are, I still think there's quite a bit of there's argument to be made for the four teams, these three teams I mentioned, and then even Texas too, of
Mm-hmm.
course, because they're coming off a pretty performance where they're just a few plays away from maybe winning the whole thing. So, but I'll just take a shot in the dark. Why not? And it seems like anymore when you started off this convo, you're basically kind of saying like how out of nowhere teams seem to be like even more commonplace than it has been back when we knew it to be that way. And now it's like you almost trying to pick a division winner in the NFL. It's almost an impossible task. But that's kind of why I feel like with at this exercise, because it's like anybody could come out of nowhere. So with that in mind, I just feel like the players are going to be there. It's just kind of maybe beating the teams that you haven't had success in recent years, as far as the Alabamas, the Georgias, kind of getting over that hump. And I don't know what. Let's just take a shot on the LSU, because they got the players, and if they can get that defense right, like they had it a few years back, that will kind of be their key to the thing. And I know you got to score points, but I think at SEC, at least in my opinion, you can get away with a 21 to 24 point average per game if you got that mad dog defense. You're going to be okay. So I think maybe LSU can put some things together, and it's been a while for them too. So those Cajuns are ready to rage.
Yeah, yeah, that's the case. That's yeah. I don't dislike that pick. I do think that certainly is a team that has the potential to do it in this season, maybe more so than a lot of other recent ones. Be interesting to see. They had so many of those games where it seemed like it turned on a dime, like in the middle of the game, whether it was them trying to fight their way back from a big deficit or them then just kind of shutting down late in the game. So can they change that narrative? That'll be interesting. Yeah, certainly a team that could be in the mix. I'm going to get a little boring, I guess, here because I'm going to go. I guess I'm countering. I'm making the show interesting here because we're going to do a little yin and yang here. I'm going to argue the opposite direction. I think that Alabama is a team that has the potential to bounce back and win this league again. I am not totally sold on DeBoer being there and fitting in perfectly as the coach. I think there's still going to be a long ways to go to figure that out and to everybody really love him. But when I went back and looked, because obviously we will all kind of relish in them, having their down years, so to speak, when it's 9-4, down year for them. So you like to see them lose because they've won for so damn long. But I looked at a couple of those games, and it's like, there were a couple of times where it was like they just made a mistake that they normally don't make. They turn the ball over quite a bit more than they usually do with Milroe. It just never felt like they kind of meshed with the way that he wanted to play and had the same kind of offensive firepower that they have in past years. But it didn't feel like it was way far off either. I don't know. It was kind of a strange team, a strange feeling. Yeah. And then at the end of the year, you felt like they kind of got a little bit better, and then turned around and played like crap in that bowl game too. So it's hard to take something away from that, I think. But I do think they've got a quarterback at least that has some experience in Ty Simpson that's been around and shown that he can have like that explosive edge to him as well. He's had some long touchdown plays for them when he's gotten his chance, and then. You talk about skill positions. I mean, Ryan Williams is still one of the most exciting players in the country at wide receiver.
You forget about him. It's like, have one. Then who's the next guy? And move on. It's like the 17-year-old phenom. It's like, Arch Manning. Who can forget about you now? Yeah. It's like, yeah.
I mean, honestly. Sure, it sounds stupid to like have a wide receiver be your tipping point, but to me, when I was looking through the team, and I'm like, man, Ryan Williams, maybe getting in the groove now. That excites. That has to excite their fans for sure. And I think he's certainly a dynamic type of player that can change a lot of things for you if you're making big plays like that. So, and also they bring back a lot of experience on the line. Proctor's had a few years and now is supposed to be, in his prime on the offensive line for them. They've got some defensive line guys that are really well regarded as well. So at plus 400, taking Alabama to win the SEC is still a pretty good damn return. So I would take a little money there. Again, not as excited about it as I would be something else. But that's where I'm going to kind of lean, I guess, as far as my conference winner. I don't disagree with you that, those other teams you mentioned, Georgia, Texas, LSU, are the ones that are the other, real strong contenders to win this thing. And, honestly, if I was being fair with myself at the beginning, too, I did want to lean a little bit towards the Texas side, as much as that would pain me to say that. But you look at what they lost, and it's in spots that do make you question because, you have Arch Manning, and you think that he's going to be really good. We don't know that for sure yet, but they lost a lot on the line, and that's what they need most is to give him time to be good. So that's a question mark. If they can prove that that's not an issue, then they could certainly be very good and win this thing. But I guess that's why I kind of leaned away from picking them to win it.
That's the biggest thing. It's like as a matter of whoever his family is, or his dad or grandpa, uncles, cousins, whatever. There's a lot you don't know. Of course, the natural talent and ability is there, but that only goes so far. So that's kind of why I understand why they're their favorite, because they're defending, and they also made the hell of a run in the playoffs with the obviously assist to the officials. But hey, man, that's the way it goes sometimes. But I just it's hard for me to say like, with confidence, like there's no way that they won't win it. So if there's nothing that kind of paints its obvious picture there, then why not? Let's go out on a limb and have some fun with these picks. And I guess I don't think I went too far, but I could LSU is a bit of a long shot, and let's go ahead and have some fun with that one at least.
I don't like I said, it's probably a decent way to go about it too. If I'm going to go with a team as far as maybe a longer shot out of that league to win it, one team that I think is really, really interesting this year is Florida. DJ Lagway is really good. Like he came on so strong at the end of last season. Early on it was like, oh, is this guy going to be? Because he just turned the ball over a lot. A guy that plays that way, kind of loose wheeling dealing. He's going to lose the ball every once in a while. But man, he got better as the season went on. They kind of turned their season around from what was an absolute turd to something that was at least respectable. And I think they, certainly a place where you got to imagine they're going to find talent and get back in the mix here at some point. So if you're going to take a flyer on somebody, they're like plus 1,800 to win the league, which I do still think is, really, really hard for them to do. But with that kind of a talented player, if you're going to, I guess that's the way I look at it. If I need to find somebody dynamic that's going to maybe, cause some reason for upset to be the one that upsets the apple cart, and I like him a lot. So that would be my kind of dark horse team in that league.
Well, I mean, you got to go Vanderbilt. According to Pavia, they're guaranteed to win it all. They're only a plus 20,000, so that's not much of a long shot. But it is one team that I guess I don't know that I'd pick them or be like, oh, this is a great pick. But of interest, it'd be like, how does that quarterback swap deal go with Tennessee? With the kind of the USC exchange they made there, because I mean, they ended up having a pretty decent year. I know they kind of got smacked in the playoff, but they weren't a bad team at all.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not the same thing because you kind of built your offense around that quarterback, but they had athletes all over the place, and they've really kind of been on the come up of recent years. So that would be a team just to watch. I wouldn't put a ton of weight on them making a run, but it's definitely of interest at plus 2,500.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move over here to the Big 12. The conference that used to be stuck in the middle of the country and now is on both sides of it as well, as many of the others are. But obviously a team or a conference that we know has been pretty wide open, and I expect that not to be any different again this year. You have, I think, a good chunk of teams. It's funny if you go look at the previews on different sites, and they kind of usually they have like, oh, here's our favorites or should be in towards the playoff kind of talk, and then you got like your contenders list, and it's usually like 6-7 teams deep in the Big 12 because you just don't know. There's so many of them that could get in the mix of this thing. I kind of went back and forth a little bit on this because it is so hard, I think, to decipher what team's going to come out of this. But I guess I'm going to give a little respect to the fact of what this team accomplished last year with Arizona State. I know Scatterbo was so much of what they were and how they obviously won at the end of the year for certain, but they do return a lot of players, and when you played that well and you return a good chunk of your core, that gives you a really good chance to at least get a 3/4 of the way back to where you were before. You kind of think of it that way. Sam Leavitt's a good quarterback, and then they get Tyson back, Jordan Tyson, the wideout, who was really good up until the end of the season. Then he couldn't play at the end of the year because he was hurt. So that gives them a weapon to kind of fit in there. And then they brought over Udo, the running back from Army, to maybe kind of fill a little bit of that tough guy void, there in the backfield for him. So there's so many teams I think that are contenders here that I'm not going to say that I'm super overconfident in anybody, but just for the simple fact, I guess, of giving some respect to what they did last year, I'm going to stick with Arizona State to be the winner. It's plus 600 is what I saw as far as the number is concerned. So that's a pretty good return there. And even, I guess, better numbers than a couple of other teams that you maybe wouldn't have thought coming into this season. So I don't feel bad about, taking that kind of a potential return on a team that won the conference and then had a, real good showing at the end of the season too.
Yeah, I guess my more concern with that team, if I was going to, be putting some money on my big, is Dillingham Fleck 2.0. That's my only concern. Mm-hmm. He's a little bit gimmicky and a little bit of that for me. I mean, whatever. If it works, do what you got to do and you win. But it's a little early in that process for me. And I think they could have a good team, but maybe the jury is still out on that one. Mm-hmm. This is tough, man. This is probably as tough as it gets because when we talked about the ACC being wide open, it was more of like I don't know if any of these teams are really that good.
Hmm.
On this point, it's like you got 3 or 4 like legitimately like pretty good teams, and then another few teams that you're like, are they gonna like a Utah? Are they gonna come back to that
Hmm.
decent run they had? Is Baylor on the come up or TCU? And then I mean I couldn't I was kind of surprised about this, and I know you probably of course you'll agree with me on that, but Iowa State at plus 1100. It
Yeah.
seems like quite a bit of a long shot when they were. I mean, I know the game didn't go well, but they
Yeah.
were in it.
Yeah.
I mean, they were one game away from winning it last year, so that was a little surprising. But I guess kind of going off my Miami theme, and I'm going to go. I guess this is a different way to use the term, but I'm going to play the money ball again. I mean, I'll go with it like a Texas Tech, man. Why
Hmm.
not? Like I think they're, and I don't like the same thing. It's like the well is going to dry up real soon with that. I don't care how much oil you got in your backyard or whatever the case may be. That's not always going to be there. And if you're not going to return your investment, those people don't invest money to lose it. They invest money to build upon it. So you got to kind of do it now. And I think being as open as it is, and they're only like, I guess the favorites in this league, which they're not very, they're pretty long themselves, or at least on the book I'm using. K State and Arizona State are both plus 550, and then you drop down the next two teams are Utah and Texas Tech at plus 600. So that's not even that long of a, an outside pick there. It's not that much of a long shot when you compare those two numbers. So I'll go ahead and say like that money's going to pay off, and I don't necessarily see them do anything when it comes to the playoff time. You would have better off if you're like a root for the conference type of guy. I think like a K State, Arizona State, someone like that to win it, to maybe make like or even a Utah push in the playoff. But Texas Tech, maybe they can. I mean that they've always been just like that freaking. They're like kind of like define the Big 12 offense for whatever reason. They haven't always been the best team, but they've always been able to put up points. I saw a stat, the other, and it was like the most. It was just like a graphic of like all the I think it was 450 plus passing yard performances, and there was 10 players, and like 5 or 6 of them were Texas Tech quarterbacks, like Sonny Cumbian, and then was it uh, I missed his name, BJ something or TJ something, and then of
Oh
course
yeah.
Mahomes was on there,
Mahomes.
and
Yeah.
freaking it's
Kingsbury.
yeah. I mean, just all these, and you remember the names. It's like they weren't like amazing teams, but they've always just found a way. And with this, open of a league, it's like if you can put up points, you're always going to be hard to beat. I guess no
Hmm.
matter what league you're in, let alone a league that plays that type of football.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there because that was the team that I was going to mention. I guess as a quote unquote dark horse. I mean, they're almost damn near favored to win the league, but
Yeah.
it is a change from where they were a year ago. Obviously, they just didn't win a lot of those close games last year, and it was interesting because they actually were one of the most efficient offensive teams in the conference last season. It wasn't because they weren't playing well, so to speak. I mean, obviously the defense, I think, could have done a better job. That's probably what held them back from having a better year. But, they just happened to play other teams when they were maybe having their best offensive day of the year. I think that's kind of how the breaks went for them last season. They're a good squad. Baron Morton is another good plug and play quarterback for them. He's got a good arm. He makes pretty good decisions for the most part. And the interesting part of this whole spending spree too, though, is a lot of these guys that came in are on the defensive side of the ball, which is odd. You think you're going to go spend money, you're going to go the flash, the offense, especially at a place like Texas Tech. But it's more so the other, and I think that's what makes me think that maybe they do even have a chance to be even better than one might think. They brought in Lee Hunter, the defensive tackle from UCF, who's just like a giant, big guy that's really athletic, and then Howard Sampson on the offensive line came over from North Carolina. So they've got guys in the trenches, they brought over, and then they've got a linebacker in Jacob Rodriguez, who's a preseason defensive player of the year. Guys that are respected on the defensive side of the ball, which isn't normal, I guess, for Texas Tech. So I think they improved there, and that's maybe what makes them a contender to win the league. It's certainly going to be interesting to see if that experiment for them pays off here this season for sure. Um, there's so many teams, like you said, that could have the potential to come back and be good again. I think before the Retzlaff issue, a lot of people were high on BYU, and who knows, maybe they're still okay without him. Yeah, Utah, you don't expect to have another down year. You expect them to be better again, and certainly as a program that always kind of finds guys and surprises you a little bit year to year with their consistency. So they could be in the mix. And you've got a lot of quarterbacks too that are back in this league that are respected. Sawyer Robertson at Baylor is another one. So yeah, there's a lot of teams. I think TCU also is a team that could be interesting as far as jumping back. I mean, they're just a couple years removed from being in the championship. So like how far do you think they have dropped, and can they kind of bounce back at some point? So it's an interesting mix. It's going to be a fun league to watch, and I think there is a lot of potential good money to play there if you're looking in the right places, or you're just taking some chances. That might be the place to do it because it is so unpredictable. The one. Just I guess to the point too of how unpredictable it is, the book that I was looking at gave me 450 for Texas Tech, so that shows you just from book to book they don't even know. So yeah, make sure you're shopping if you have a team in mind, because you might find some pretty different odds in different places. The other league that we have not gotten to as far as the Power Four is concerned is the Big Ten, as we go around the clock here to the upper Midwest, so to speak. And we've got, again, I think a lot of teams that could be potentially really good teams here this year. Maybe some more question marks for a couple of them, just because there has been so much turnover at some of the major programs. And that's what makes this race interesting this year. SJ, you obviously watch a lot of Big Ten football nowadays. Who you got coming out of the league here this year?
Well, this is where I probably get boring on you. Just like I said, if there's somebody that's so obvious you can't pay against them, and the issue with this is not the fact that I think that it's like an unbeatable team, because even when they won the title last year, they weren't unbeatable because we saw them get beat. But it's the fact that the guy nipping at your heels is a Penn State coached by James Franklin, who hasn't won anything that matters with him at the helm at all. So that's more my issue. So of course Ohio State's is my pick, and it's boring, but at least you're still getting plus money. I feel more comfortable if it was like, and Oregon's not far off. They're at plus 360. But I mean, the difference between Ohio State and Penn State's plus 195, plus 220. That's too close to me to be like Penn State's ready to do it. I don't. If they were like a maybe longer shot, I'd give them a chance just for the fact that I don't think they can beat them. I mean, the way they're going to have to win is that someone else is going to have to knock off Ohio State, because even last year they couldn't get it done when they had I mean, everything was there. You had the game. I won't say you had the game won, because that's never the case, at least in my mind. Maybe of course, the only game that could that comes to mind of recent times where it's like you kind of it was a big game that you pissed away was maybe that Michigan State game where literally the punter just dropped the snap and then they freaking run it in, like that type of thing. But outside of that, it's really like, of course it's there's nothing's ever a guarantee. Even that, of course, but it's not like you're kneeling the ball and then you fumble, or a Herm Edwards type, fumble recovery either in the NFL back in the old NFL films days. But I don't think they have to do it before you can be like, okay, I'm on that wagon. And they've been like all, they got the quarterback this year. They've got the got the defense. They've had like the likes of like Micah Parsons and even Abdul Carter last year and all these players, and it still doesn't seem to matter when the big games are on the line. I'm not saying not a good program, but we're talking about conference champion here, and that's like kind of that elite level. So I'm just going to go ahead and take Ohio State. I feel if you had to make me say pick somebody not Ohio State and have somewhat of confidence in it, I'd be fine with that plus 360 with Oregon. But after that, it drops really far. And Michigan's the next team. I don't see that at all. Like, I wish you could pick them to like how much your odds would be to not win. I'd rather go their over under on their games than I would. I just don't get how they're the fourth best team by these odds. I know that's not the way it kind of works out in the how they figure these, but that's literally what it looks like. You'd be the fourth most winning team there, so I don't see that happening. So I mean, USC may be a team that I know a lot of people like them with the talent and coach out there is Lincoln Riley's the quarterback genius supposedly. So if he gets going with Nico out there, who knows what could happen with that. So maybe that'd be more my long shot, but I don't know. Like, it's one of those cases where, and I don't know, it's like top to bottom, it's a pretty good conference, obviously, but it still seems like Ohio State just has more of a stranglehold than teams in the other conferences, at least right now.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that my mindset was exactly like yours as I started to look at this too. But I guess I went the other way just to play devil's advocate. Not that I have a real strong belief in it, because we said it numerous times last year while we were making picks. Like, we don't believe Penn State can just win the big game, and they haven't done it. I'm going to say they got this is their chance, though. This is. I mean, if you're going to have a year, this is it. They've got, like you said, the quarterback's back, who a lot of people respect as a good player in Aller. Kind of not like a. I don't know. He's kind of in that middle. Like, he's not like super flashy, but does enough to like make you frustrated as a QB. And then they've got good running backs. Katron Allen's back and Nick Singleton. So if you have a good running game, the quarterback doesn't have to do it all either. So I think that's what helps them. And obviously their defense is going to be very good. And I think it might be good enough to beat some of those teams that they couldn't get over the hump with this time. Maybe it is the defense has to win the game, and they do this time. They got Jim Knowles as their DC now over from Ohio State, and that's what makes it a little bit shaky, I think, for Ohio State. They've got 2 new coordinators. You've got a new quarterback, obviously, coming in. You've lost, a lot of other, key pieces around the field. There's not a whole lot of returners on the defensive side either. That makes them a little bit more vulnerable than they ever have been. But yes, they are Ohio State, and they will reload talent, and there are guys that have just been waiting to play that are going to be the next stars. I understand that. And of course, I guess, if I'm going to argue it the other direction, it would be my same mindset of, I was talking about Ryan Williams earlier. Well, you have to talk about Jeremiah Smith. That's still a huge advantage that Ohio State has in their back pocket with a player like that. That's just, I think hands down probably the best receiver in the country. So that makes them still a very tough team. But yeah, if Penn State's going to do it, now's the time. Here's your opportunity. And I guess, like you said, if you're going to play the odds, though, between the two, boy, that's not enough reward to be confident in doing it. If you're a Penn State fan, go ahead. Go nuts this year, because maybe this is your shot. But otherwise, yeah, it's a little bit leery. I would more so, if I'm going to be them, like kind of look at that win total and see if you can get some good money there on them, or maybe wait a little bit into the season, a couple games, and see if things change. I don't know. They're intriguing. So I just went that way to play a little bit devil's advocate. If it is time, it is their time now. Now, a team that I am a little bit intrigued by as far as a huge dark horse, I certainly do not think they have the ability to win the league, but think they have the ability to like scare a couple of teams in a weird way. I don't necessarily always like the way they go about things. I don't necessarily love the way their coach acts sometimes either. But for the most part, he does surprise people from time to time. Just when you think he's dead in the water, they come back to life. And that's Illinois. They bring a lot of teams back. They're quietly like a pretty good team last year. They win 10 games and nobody really talked about them. They bring Altmaier back at the QB spot. They've got most of their line back. And they've got a really good linebacker that a lot of people respect there in Gabe Jacobs. So I think that they're certainly a team that could play a little bit of a devil's advocate. And I think the way if I remember right looking at it, their schedule isn't the worst either this year. They've got a couple of weird road test type things in there, but other than that, it's not the worst road for them. So it could be a sneaky fun team there in the league to kind of shake it up.
Yeah, Biff always does his best work when nothing's expected of him. So that will be the key there is are they able to do it a few games when something's more out there. But I mean, I guess the biggest maybe oversight there would be if you ask their coach would be Indiana. Mm-hmm. They're plus 3,500 and they're one of the best programs in college football history. If you let him tell the story. So that I'm sure he'll play plenty of motivation there. Obviously, probably isn't using the odds, the betting odds, but I'm sure he's kind of rallying the troops, saying that no one expects anything of us this year. In which I don't think that's necessarily the case, but it would be. It's a hell of a ask to replicate a season like that at that type of a place, especially when you kind of just had a little bit not only favorable scheduling, but you were able to kind of bring a lot of your players that have been playing under you for several years to one location and kind of all worked out. It kind of seems like one of those I don't know, dream seasons is kind of seems like what
Mm-hmm.
people like to call it. But yeah, I don't see them making a run. But it was just I figured we'd get some sound bites out of that here if someone brings up the fact that they're not one of the conference favorites
Yeah.
in most people's minds.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you might see a couple of those teams again this year in this league. I think, just depending especially now that we've got this 18 team, league, like you're going to have these situations where somebody runs into a great little run on a schedule. Maybe they win one upset game that you didn't expect them to. And here they are sitting at 9-0 or whatever. And then they finally play a contender and they lose by 21, like happened to Indiana last year. So that's going to happen, I think, from time to time, just the way that these leagues are set up now.
Well, as much as you try to make it as everyone has like at least somewhat of a comparable schedule, it's not it can't happen because you don't know what every team's going to be like, that season, and they do them, a year or two ahead of time in some cases. So, you may have a year where you don't get Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and you get friggin' Northwestern and Maryland and Purdue. So that pads the record right there, and makes a big difference. So that's the trick of it all. Like, I mean, I'm not necessarily for the super conferences. I'm not. I want to say I don't care for them, and I'm not totally like I hate this. But also that's kind of the downside of it is like when you can't play everybody within your so-called league or conference, you definitely start getting into some issues as far as scheduling and beyond that. Because it's like, well, I'm the conference champion, but I only played 30% of the teams. Like,
Yeah.
how does that work out? And but that's the world we're in right now.
Yeah. And at least I guess we have the playoff situation that helps that a little bit now because we get the deciding more down the road because of those games. So that helps. But yeah, it is. That's what sucks the most about it. I agree in my opinion, like having too big of a league. As far as other teams like outside of those Power Four conferences, I think there's one that really stands out that's pretty easy to say that they could get back in the playoff again, and that's Boise State. Even though you lose a star in Ashton Genty or our boy Mike Myers, they're still bring back a lot. They brought over a transfer as well from Fresno State and Malik Sherrod, who's a really good running back in his own right. And then Maddox Madison, their quarterback, is back, who is a pretty good player in himself. Just didn't necessarily shine because he's got a otherworldly running back behind him. But they're always a good team, and I think out of those power or group of five teams, they're certainly the ones that you would say are kind of lead the pack by a pretty significant margin this year.
Yeah, I wish there was. Unfortunately, I'm not getting much action here in the book I'm taking out here.
Yeah.
But here we go. Now we found it. It's when, of course, they can't put it where you need it, but that's when we like to mess with or whatever. And best odds you're looking at right now is a Toledo, and I don't mind that. So they're usually kind of running roughshod over those leagues. But even as you want, somebody that's kind of maybe we'll talk about this team later. Is Northern Illinois is plus 1,200, so that may be a team to take a flyer on that league because there's no way we're avoiding those games again. It's like you got to get the week going on Tuesday nights with those wild games. And I don't know if you caught this. I don't know if it was like a Reddit post or something like that, but someone was just kind of. I mean, it was in jest, of course, but it was still kind of pretty dang clever, saying how SEC is nothing. Have you never been to a MAC game on a Tuesday night in the middle of a blizzard with 17 people and a raccoon in the stands, and and we just kept going on and on. And I think it was even like Van Pelt or someone of that, like a bigger name kind of, was just saying like, this is freaking poetry or something like what's it? Wright Thompson's got nothing on this or whatever. Like it was pretty good though. I was like, I enjoyed that, and I was like, man, those games do get wacky though. It's like I think it's like a 6 overtime game, in the blizzard, or it's like it's kind of exaggerating, but at the same time, we've seen some wild stuff in that league, so it's not really that crazy.
No,
we all even the raccoon's not that out of sorts.
No,
we see the squirrels on the field and whatever else.
Yeah. No, we all love it. I mean, we all tune in for it, and everybody jokes about it, but we do like that time of year for sure. The one other team that I did want to mention that I think is kind of interesting. Just because they've had so much like weird turnover and they have been pretty good or like on the cusp of being really good is Tulane. They lost, their quarterback to Duke. They lost their best running back to Oregon, so that hurts, obviously. But they brought in a lot of guys, too, from some other schools. It looks like they've got 3 that are kind of in the running to maybe be the next QB coming in from other programs. So could have some success there. And they've always been a team that's just kind of sneaky there in the AAC. They kind of sneak around, and there are some good teams every once in a while that make them better within that league too. That kind of jump up and bite a couple other teams. So I think they could be an interesting one. They've gotten some interesting transfers. So a team that I think is always one to just keep a little bit of an eye on. They might be one to sneak into the playoff if that's if you're looking to find a flyer there down the road. That's kind of our rundown, I think, of some of the teams that we were looking for as far as who are the contenders in these conferences and who we think might be playoff contenders as well. Obviously, as we get into the actual weeks, we will then start making predictions. We will get into making those picks there for you week to week on all the games as they come along, but this is just kind of the outlook for the entire season. A couple of other notes that we did want to throw out there for you as well, talking about college football. You just mentioned Northern Illinois, so we might as well go there. Their head coach, Thomas Hammock, I went on a little rant the other day in a press conference. I assume I didn't watch the whole thing and see what the exact question was that, press, made the comments start to fly, but I'm guessing.
It might have been, how you doing today, Coach? Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was the question. Like he had something to get off his chest.
Yeah. Obviously, he's not a fan of the NIL era. He's a guy that does not like the fact that you're chasing money, and obviously they're in a place where you're going to have guys that get poached from other schools if you have good players, and it seems they had some of that, and he just made. I guess the gist of his comments to his team was, if you're going to, all these guys go into their places to get money, and he's like, let's just wait and see. Let's see if they play. Let's see if they really enjoy it. He's like, just talked about, I loved my experience in college. I didn't need the money to do it. I don't need more money to go somewhere else. I would go back and do it again for nothing. And, I know how you're gonna come at this here a little bit, SJ. I do have one little aspect of this here that I think I'll go the other way on you here in a minute, but I guess your thoughts on kind of his outburst, so to speak.
Well, I guess my first reaction was like, we're still doing this. Like, honestly, like we had the freaking Dabos and all these coaches just complain. It's like, we get it, like it's not ideal, but man, like people are doing overcoming other hurdles in far less prominent and far less compensated jobs across the country. But you figure it out, man. It's like you put some of your money up on the table there, Buckaroo. If you want these guys to stay, like that's kind of my first thought. It's like you're so, and I mean, in a perfect world, it's like I just don't get that mindset. Like, and maybe I'm just like maybe a little bit too honest. I feel like I don't want to be disingenuous, but if somebody like throws a stack of cash on my table and says, "Here's money, you never have to work again," I'm not freaking working again.
Yeah.
And like I guess these people are just so pious that they would just be like, "Oh, no way. I'm going to, no matter, I'm getting up at 5:00 every day," and I was gonna say taking your kids to activities, but we know they're not doing that. That's the wife's job. So they ain't gonna do none of that work. But I was like, man, if I could just go to my kids' activities, drop them off at school, and have money in the bank, like what the hell? That's what you work for. Is so you can live a comfortable life and you don't have to do all this extra stuff. Like that's the whole point. So and I'm fine with the fact that you don't like people just like maybe taking these chances but there's a better way to go about it. Be like kind of have a conversation, being like, I understand like it's hard to turn this type of money down, but there's a bigger picture to be had, because it's different for someone that's like 40 years old, like in getting money, and then you're closer to the end of the road of the working world, at least hopefully one day maybe, but then because someone that's like 20 and you're kind of just getting into it. But I just don't get the concept of like, why wouldn't you get as much money as you can while you can get it? Because it's not always going to be there. Like even people that have worked their way up to, I guess the most example I can think of that you just see a lot is like the people that kind of got in big in like the investing and that type of like not crypto but like legitimate investing, like stock market thing, and they're just like raking in money, and then like all of a sudden, either their company downsizes, something changes, and they have like literally no income and they have no job.
Mm-hmm.
But they made as much money as they could, and hopefully they save some of it because you're going out to all these restaurants and you're wining and dining clients and you have all this stuff and everything seems good, but it's not always going to be like that. So that's my point. It's not always going to be there for you. So get it while you can. Of course, like if it's the above board type thing, I'm not saying do all these nefarious actions or anything illegal. And I know we don't have to touch on them this week, but there's even more of this freaking gambling stuff coming up where you're just like the dumbest shit you could do. It's like you're asking to get caught.
Yeah.
But I'm not advocating for that route. But if it's like a legitimate above board thing and you're have access to this, like I just don't understand turning anything down because you're like, oh, it's just the right thing to do. Like that's the dumbest shit I ever heard in my life. Like, and so that's where it kind of lost me. I'm like, it's kind of that just I don't know. It just doesn't. Maybe some people agree with that, and that's fine. I just can't get on board with it.
Yeah. Well, and you're not wrong in the fact that when we were talking beforehand, it's like anybody else. If you get a better job offer and you get a lot more money, more often than not, you take it because that's the ultimate goal. You're trying to earn income.
Sometimes it's not even more money. It's just like maybe you want to. Maybe it's a better, nicer, better weather. Maybe you're closer to family. Like there's a lot of things that go into it besides just money.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's so many of us that especially have that mindset from like working backgrounds or whatever, or people that had to work really hard to get their whatever they have. It is obviously, I think that it bites them a little bit more when you see somebody who just they're good at a sport and all of a sudden somebody throws a lot of cash at them, but that's not their fault, and it's disingenuous to believe that they're just going to say no. Like you as a kid, would you have done the same thing? Don't tell me you wouldn't, because you would. Like when somebody comes in, I'm going to give you $500K to go over to this school. All right, where do I sign?
Where do I leave? Yeah, where do I need to be? Like tell me what to do. Like, like literally it.
Like I think the point that he had of like that this is there is a future in this too, and you do learn things about yourself and life, and that's legitimate. He's not wrong there. And could it be a worse situation for a lot of these kids? Yeah, 100%. They might go there, they might get the money, and they still might hate the experience. That might be the only good thing that comes out of it for them. Sure, they might not get to play as much as they wanted to, or they didn't end up liking the coaching staff, or whatever the case may be. They didn't like the school as much as they thought they would. That's all could be true as well. But it's hard to tell them that they're not going to do that just because it might be a chance I don't like it. Like they're gonna take the money and the opportunity. Now, if it doesn't work and some of those kids go the other direction, yeah, that's going to happen a lot too. I think there's going to be a lot of kids that coming back to maybe some of these smaller schools because they realized I didn't really love this experience, or the school decided that we're not going to give you as much money anymore, and they go back to somewhere else that are more comfortable. The only thing that I think that that I feel like maybe he was trying to angle for a little bit, and this is what I could see as being a positive from what he was trying, or the outburst, so to speak, is just trying to, I guess, mark his point of like who they are. This is my program. This is what we are. Like, just trying to, I guess, draw his line in the sand of like, if you're coming here, it's not going to be for those reasons. He's just being honest, I think, with that part of it. We're more about, developing and trying to get you set up for life. And that's the experience you're going to get here. I think it's pretty obvious that they don't have the resources and the funds just to like outbid somebody to keep a player there. So that's not going to happen. If that's what he was going for, I think he should have done it in a different manner. But I guess I see that angle a little bit. So I guess that's the one part that I wasn't able to support. I mean, there are those little bits and pieces of it in the back of your mind, like, well, that you little bit agree, like, you want to have set yourself up for other things in life too, but at the same time, a couple $100,000 does a pretty good job of doing that for somebody also, not rather than just the experience also. So, it's going to be different for everybody. Kids are going to figure this out. And I think, we've talked that there's going to be a comeback to the means of all this anyways. Like the money that's being thrown around now, I don't think is going to be there forever. Is it still going to be significant? Yeah. And it's probably going to stay that way. But The other little wrinkle, I guess I'll throw in there too. I don't feel like I'm carrying on forever here, but the thing that I was talking to somebody else about the other day, and this topic we touched last time, is like the whole, universities like, oh, we need money, like what are we gonna do now, kind of thing. And it's like, you've been paying coaches $5-7 million a year for how long, and that was not a problem. And now all of a sudden, like, the kids need some money, and we're like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? We can't budget. You've nenever had to figure this out before.
Start cutting teacher salaries and getting rid of programs and closing dorms up, and it's kind of wild how that works. Like that's mostly the issue across the board. To me, I'm trying to use too, like, trying to get on my soapbox, but it's mostly like the hypocrisy in it all. It's not that they want money; it's they're owed money. Like, that's the whole thing of it. Like, they're literally generating, millions and billions of dollars. Like, it just seems like, I don't know how you could sleep at night being like, they're fine. They got some, they got a little cafeteria. They can grab a couple pieces of pizza and you get a massage if they want. They're all good. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just like, to me, that's more of the issue. And I guess, you want people to make the right choices, but that's part of life. Like, maybe you go to the wrong school, but you make because of money, and then you don't get to play. And then, oh, guess what? Now I got to get a real job and figure out life now, and I'm not going to play football, or I have to go through the free agent route or transfer again. Like, that's how you learn. Like, these are, I know they're not, they're adults, but you're figuring out life in college, and that's how you do it. It's like, maybe you do make the wrong choice. Mm-hmm. I look back at my experience, be like, I probably shouldn't have done that. I could have done this instead, or that's, and then there wasn't, nobody going on a rant saying I should or shouldn't have done it. Mm-hmm. It's just, that's the way it goes. So that was more of it that was lost to me. It's like, it's maybe not always the right choice, but that's a life choice that you make. And that's how you, kind of learn from this experience and do better the next time.
Yeah.
I get he's got a gripe, but it's like, what do you want to do about it? If you don't like it, go play intramurals, brother.
yeah.
That's the only time a Colorado, someone that associated with the university ever said something worth a damn was that rant by old freaking I can't even think of his name now. What the hell was his name? I can see his damn potato head, but I can't think of his name.
Oh. Yeah, I can't think of it either. It's like I don't know. It's definitely like a wide, ranging and certainly a polarizing issue, to a lot of people just from an outside perspective.
But, Hawkins, that's what it was.
Oh yeah, Dan Hawkins. There you go. Yeah,
I knew it would come to me.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think there are, like I said, there's going to be some changes at some point, and we're going to get to a whatever cap or however this works out differently down the road will make it a little bit more manageable for coaches, so to speak. But you're always going to have the peripheral, and you're always going to have the guys that generate more attention and more eyeballs just based on the position they play and the plays that people see on TV all the time. That's the way of the world. So it's no different than when they climb up to the next level. That's going to be part of the game. You just got to figure out how to navigate it. And yeah, like you said, kids are going to make choices. They're going to learn along the way, and that's also part of life.
Dude, you're literally like an hour outside of like Chicago. Even closer to like that expanding metro. It's like, you're telling me you can't find some kids who slip through the cracks?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, maybe that you have to do more of that than you ever thought you did before. Is find some of those kids that aren't going to get the looks and the immediate attention from other schools, and that part of it, honestly, probably should be a little bit easier now as well, because schools aren't focusing as much on the prep recruiting game as they did in the past. So that certainly is interesting way to go about it. The other little notes that we wanted to throw at real quick. It does sound like we're not going to get our ideal college football red zone. If you're a fan of that platform and that thing on the NFL Sundays, Fox doesn't appear to be wanting to play game with creating a channel, and I don't blame them. You got to protect your property too. Maybe both of them could do some sort of similar thing on their own. So there's no saying they can't do that. But whatever. You've got lots of options. Anymore you see all the replays when you want to see them anyway. So I don't know that it's that valuable of a product myself. But I get where Fox is coming from for sure.
Yeah, well, with the multi-view option, it's almost kind of like you don't need it. And then ESPN had that goal line thing forever, so
Yeah,
it's
it's
like they've
not
kind of
different.
already
Yeah.
had it before. It's like, and
Mhm.
I get that why they wouldn't want to like. Why would we give our games to you for you can make money off it? Like
Mhm.
that's the thing. So when they first said, it, I was like, do you realize like this isn't all owned by the same entity like it is with NFL? Like it's
Yeah.
not going to just work seamlessly. So
Uh-huh.
maybe someone will work out now. But honestly, with as many games there is from like noon till 10 at night. I don't know if I could be even fitted into the to my viewing anyway.
Yeah, I
So
agree. I agree.
I probably wouldn't be the target audience because I'm locked in on at least one game per week, and then also like everything else in between or around it. Like I want to kind of watch the game, not just parts of it.
Yep, yep, for sure. And the other part too, it is interesting that I've seen that there does sound like there's going to be some sort of deal though between those networks as far as a packaged bundle. How it exactly is going to work, I don't quite understand yet, but it does appear that you're going to be able to pay one fee to get all of the feeds from Fox and ESPN at least together. Now, if they're going to be fed to you through one platform, I don't know, but they at least it sounds like have come to that sort of agreement because they already had that talk before when they thought that this venue sports thing was going to come about. That didn't work out. Now it still sounds like they're at least going to collaborate in that front, which I think from a financial point for both of them makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like I don't. This is it's all in the early stages and it's all talk when it first comes out, but it seems like there's a bit more of an understanding for on the consumer side of like what's going to be available or accessible. So hopefully that continues to be the case, but time will tell. But and I don't even. I mean, we're fine. I mean, I'm whatever. Like it is what it is with all the app stuff. But at some point, there is a line of like, I'm not getting another damn
Yeah.
subscription. So that's kind of where I'm. I'm just like, I can pick and choose here or whatever. But if there's not something I watch consistently, I'm at the point like I'm getting rid of that, or I'm swapping it out for another one, and then we'll
Yeah.
switch back when that another show or another whatever comes out. Like it's just like I can't be having 10, 12 different freaking things going at the same time. It's just I don't have the time to watch it all, so why would I be paying for it?
Yeah, yeah, and obviously the subscriptions start to rack up, and we're back.
That too, yeah.
We're back above where we were complaining about in the first place with cable. So now we've reverted to back to above the mean. But the other little story that came out this week that's just kind of funny is Big 12 voted everybody to one, and I know who the one is. To start assessing 15-yard penalties once the third incident of something being thrown on the field happens during a game. Now, obviously, we've talked before in the past. There's been some incidents here in these last few years where fans think they're entitled to act like whatever kind of asshole they feel like they can at a game, and there needs to be repercussions for it. And I guess hey, here's a way to do it. You're really gonna hurt your team if you continue to act like a bunch of idiots. Now, the school that's against this, as many of you may know, is Texas Tech because they have the tradition of throwing the stupid tortillas onto the field after their first score, which I never understood anyways. But but yeah, so that they're in a much more precarious situation because they know those people wanting to do that and are going to have those things with them. So that makes sense, I guess, why they'd be opposed. But to me, yeah, I mean, we got to discourage people from being dumb. So I don't hate it.
I mean, what stuck out to me was like you get three tries
Well,
before
yeah,
anything happens, and then also it just said like, and I didn't go through like the actual like the bylaw, the guideline or whatever from the official whatever. I just got saw a press release, but I'm like, is it anything like you could throw like axes, hatchets,
well,
but
good
just
question.
don't do it three times, like because even like the bottle thing, like you don't need like if it's empty or not, all you need is like one bottle,
That's
and you
true.
got some serious issues. So like that's what I didn't get. I was like, why is it three times? I thought it was gonna be like the first time, and then after that you're out of here. But
Yeah. Well, and then also, how are you gonna quantify it too? Like obviously, like in a Texas Tech situation where they're gonna let them. They already said they're gonna let them do their tradition thing at the beginning, and that won't count against them. But say like in one other part of the game, like we've seen in Boulder many a times where the snowballs start flying from all over the place. Are you going to count like just three of them that happen to come down at that one same time, or are you just counting that one time as an incident and all these count together? Because to me, it's like just the item itself is enough. if there's three people that do it at the same time, boom, there's your penalty. To
Right.
me, that's what it
Oh,
should be. But
yeah, no, that makes sense. I just was like, I mean, I'm sure it'll over time it'll play out. I was just like, man, it's like you could do some damage in 3 attempts.
yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, and maybe it'll need to be adjusted once they do put it into place too. Just we're working our way up to that point. I don't know, but yeah, I think there definitely anything we can do to check unabnormal fan behavior is a good thing for sure. That's kind of what we had on the docket here for you this week, as far as topics of concern here were for you. We're excited. College football's on the way. Week 0 next weekend. Yeah, obviously my squad's part of hopefully what should be one of the most exciting games of the week. Week 0 there in Dublin between Iowa State, Kansas State. I'm excited. I guess the one thing I do like about this, and maybe I've mentioned this before, but historically Iowa State hasn't necessarily played like one of those tough games out of the gate. It's always it can be tough because you play an in-state school like a UNI a lot of times. That's one that it was common in the past. But usually it's like a regional team,
Directional
South Dakota,
school or something.
Yeah. You're not playing a top dog, and so I think that early season emphasis on this is a really big game, not only for us, but for the season, for the conference race, is interesting, and I think it'll be good for them to get that experience right away. So I am excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say I hope you got your Guinness chilling already, but I guess over there you might need to drink it like room temperature, right? Isn't it supposed to not be cold or
I don't
whatever
know what they do there, but I ain't playing that game. So
No, get that thing frosty, baby.
yeah.
Like, I mean, I know it's kind of like whatever. It's not like the amazing but I don't. To me, it's like especially with the conditions, depends on what they are. But it's like it's hard to beat a nice pour cold Guinness in like I mean. I'll kind of like stand by that one with even just like your typical domestic loggers. Like sometimes you just can't beat it. I know there's better quality and products and that type of thing, but it's up there. I enjoy one from time to time.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty of folks from the state of Iowa consuming a lot of it here this week leading up to the football game. So should be a lot of fun. Obviously, as those games come upon us, we'll have some picks for you coming up here later this week. So make sure that you like, subscribe, share, first off, the podcast here, so you're always hearing us and our reaction each and every week, and wherever you take your podcast in. And then like, subscribe, and get the notifications on the YouTube channel, because that's where we will deliver those weekly picks. Usually what we do is kind of pick out a few of our favorites of each and every week and give you our plays, and maybe if we feel like there's a couple of ones that you want to put together, or those kinds of things, or a little bit of an over/under that we love. We'll play all kinds of things for you, but we usually kind of narrow it down to a few for that video, and then we'll discuss obviously more in depth on the podcast as well, results, and then maybe what we're looking at peeking away for the next week as well. So make sure you're locked into both of those locations. And then also on the more on-demand side would be to catch up with us on Twitter at SJMBets, at Cherokee CP. Those are the handles, so follow us there. We'll put up the graphics, our picks, probably a little commentary along the way as games are going on during days, what we're seeing, what we're liking, and we'd love to interact with you. If you got some picks that you love, some beers you want us to try as we're watching those games, we'd love to hear your feedback and get your interaction as well. Geared up, ready to go. Kick this thing off. Get that pigskin rolling down the field, right?
Yeah, I mean, even the responsible gaming of us, that includes us and our community here. That things change quickly or something pops up, so we might just throw a tweet out there and something we like or see or game, especially with the live betting aspect. That's anybody. For me, it's like someone that actually like is like someone that's followed the sport or has covered it and kind of like is more than just like someone looking at a analytics sheet or the EV and the value as far as that goes. That's where you kind of can kind of make some money there, or at least get your percentages up for wins. So the live betting aspect, that's something that apparently we're going to be doing it here soon in Missouri. So they say it's coming. So, and I know there's a couple of there's maybe some more options coming out here as the reports say. So I guess that's a good thing, give you more variety. But just keep it locked in to, like you said, to all the any ways you can get in touch with us, and we're always glad to go back and forth, or whatever you got. We're open to the suggestions or elsewise.
Yeah, for sure. So keep it locked in. Happy start to the college football season to you. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another week of Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.